briefly touch on a video that I talked a little bit about yesterday and to make that a little bit more succinct as opposed to the other one that went a little long. The last time we saw Emma Vigeland of TYT, I've always said I've liked Emma Vigeland of TYT, even if it's something that she's said per se that I may disagree with. For the most part, I think she's an earnest actor. Some of you may disagree with that because of not liking TYT, but just because you dislike an institution doesn't necessarily mean everybody under that umbrella behaves in kind. In her case, she has certain biases. Don't misunderstand me. Everyone does. And she tends to trend to a more progressive centrism of sorts, or at the very least willing to be open to that. I mean, I say that to say that she likes Warren. And she likes Warren in a way that I don't. I don't trust Warren at all. Last time we saw Emma, she was in her feelings. And she essentially said this.
And now she's going through a custody battle. All you people care about is readers and making money off of her. She's a human! What you don't realize...
She was in her feelings, man. She was in her feelings. So, is what it is. However, on this particular episode, Emma gets the opportunity to ask Elizabeth Warren a question. And one of the questions that she brings up is a question that she said on other occasions that, look, people were attacking Warren. It is a fair point to ask her about the military budget. And when she gets the opportunity, she doesn't shirk the responsibility of doing so. She asked Elizabeth Warren, how are you, with your lefty bona fides, how do you explain voting for this bloated military budget? Elizabeth Warren's answer to this question is fascinating. It's a non-answer, but she ends up in a place that is a bit worse than what she started, as opposed to if she would have just answered the question. Emma Vigeland. Shout out to Emma Vigeland. And yeah, welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, you find yourself coming back here often, please like, share, subscribe. Also, if you really dig it, please consider supporting through PayPal or Patreon. This content is brought to you by you. I say that every video. It drives me crazy to have to say it, and yet it's just kind of par for the course. I don't trust Warren as far as I can throw her. And you can't tell in this t-shirt, but I have scrawny arms. I can't throw her far at all. Whether it's not standing up for the people in Standing Rock, which again, it's how do you not stand up for this group that lefties cared immensely about, but then want lefties to stand up for you? And part and parcel to that was she was under the thumb of the party. She came out only after Obama came out for that. Even with this notion of right now, pushing this thing of, I will not, quote unquote, unilaterally disarm. What she means by that is, I will take all the money in the world after I get out of the primary when you can't do anything about it. While in the primary, I'm going to give you this gimmick, this fig leaf, that I'm only doing this to raise grassroots support. If you think about it, that makes zero sense. You mean that you believe that there is some kind of ethical challenge associated with the money in the primary, but in the general that goes away? Or are you saying that you want to build a grassroots movement now, but not use that grassroots movement when you get into the general and you're going to be taking the money? Why can't you take the money, corporate money, at the exact same time you're taking the grassroots? It doesn't really make sense. The only honest answer is it is a gimmick. It is the thing that she used as a fig leaf to get from point A to point B because she knows people are skeptical of money in politics. However, she also knows that if she gets out of the primary and she's standing beside Donald Trump, you're not going to ding her for it. However, she will just be like every other politician. And why would you expect a different result by essentially the exact same process? Not supporting Bernie Sanders was a big one. Because ultimately, after not supporting Sanders, she lied about it. Ultimately, there was a deal between her and Clinton going back 2013 that she would stand and support Clinton. All of the talk about why she didn't support him and everything else boiled down to that. The person she was ideologically closest to, she decided for political reasons not to support him. And again, now, She's turning around asking you for your support when, again, she's not supporting the things that you wanted her to support. And on top of that, that they rigged it, didn't rig it. She goes on television saying they rigged it. Yes, because she read Donna Brazil's book on that particular subject, where any person with eyes and with a brain can come away from that saying, yes, they did in fact rig that election. And then after the party gets to her, or the next day or so, they didn't rig it. She walks it back. I'm sorry. She has an ignoble career in politics, and trust becomes a big factor. She is under the thumb of a party that said in court they can cheat and pick a candidate in a smoke-filled room. And the entire time they have been lying about this, that they cheated. Sanders was lying all the way through. And Warren was one of those people during that particular time that helped co-sign that particular lie in her support for Clinton. And even now, it just recently came out that Clinton and Warren are in back-channel communications. Those back-channel communications are for several reasons. Clinton hates Trump. 2, Clinton hates Sanders. She doesn't believe he even should have ran and blames him to some degree on the reason why she lost. And 3, Clinton feels that she owes Warren because Warren was loyal to Clinton back in 2013 and when she ran in 2016. The back channel hasn't gone anywhere. And they don't want anybody to know that that back channel exists, meaning that their goal was to keep the secret, and it's now been aired. I don't trust Warren. Also, this inability to answer straight questions. Warren is asked a decent, straight question by Emma Vigeland. Listen to Warren's answer and explain to me why this isn't more problematic of an answer than what she was just asked.
Elizabeth Warren about her record when it comes to the military budget and foreign policy, which some from the left have criticized her on, I think with legitimate cause. And this was her answer. You have focused a lot on progressive domestic policy. You also voted for a military budget increase in 2017. How does that square with your progressive politics when we're talking about foreign policy?
If the question is, do I think we should cut the military budget, the answer is yes.
Stop. That's not the question. That's not the question. That wasn't what you were asked. How does your progressive bona fides line up with voting for a bloated military budget? Don't reframe it. I just asked you a very basic, straight question. You can answer me any way you want to answer me, but at the very least, the answer should somehow pertain to the question that you were asked. How does your progressive bona fides line up with the military budget? And Elizabeth Warren immediately changes this to, do you think we should cut the military budget? I say yes. And everything else after this has nothing to do with what she was asked. She does this a lot, by the way. People who like her don't follow up on these type of questions where she just completely goes off into Wonderland. But let's restart it, and I'll let her do her thing.
That's square with your progressive politics when we're talking about foreign policy.
If the question is, do I think we should cut the military budget, the answer is yes. And I'm now on the Senate Armed Services Committee. I've had this fight over and over. But there's another part to it, too. We need to stop the control over our defense budget that's exercised by the giant defense industry. As you know, we now have a Secretary of Defense who spent 7 years as head lobbyist for Raytheon. I asked for some simple conflict of interest rules that he would abide by. For example, not to make decisions that involve Raytheon and Raytheon's bottom line. And he refused. The Republicans confirmed him anyway.
Elizabeth Warren has taken this into...
Well, this is what corruption is all about. Putting lobbyists in charge of our government agencies, a lobbyist, former lobbyist in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency. This is the heart of corruption. And the moment has come to call it out and to fight back. That's what being in this room was all about.
It's not that I don't disagree with what she said. Meaning, after reframing the question and going into the direction of we shouldn't have lobbyists controlling our military policy in regards to what we spend as a government on military. Yes, clearly, I don't think we should have lobbyists dictating our military policy. Clearly, I don't want somebody who's the head of a company now dictating military policy when they have a, interest that runs out of alignment with what the American public may want from a standpoint of interest, meaning his own personal enrichment or the enrichment of the company to which he used to work, and buying stuff that we may not necessarily need. So yes, clearly, any lefty is going to agree with that premise. Any right-winger should agree with that premise. Any real right-winger should agree with that premise that doesn't like corruption. Yes. Elizabeth Warren, though, the only problem with this is that's not what you were asked. You were asked something else. And now that you've gone down this particular direction, I have another question that you probably won't answer. The corruption in the military budget didn't just start when that guy was confirmed. It was start before that. So you're saying that you voted for a budget that you knew was corrupt. This kind of goes back to my original question, Mrs. Warren, Senator Warren. How does your progressive bona fides line up with a bloated military budget? And based on your answer, which I appreciate, by the way, even though it doesn't really answer my question, which I appreciate, though, you answer my question. But based on your question, or based on your answer, there's all sorts of corruption in this bloated military budget. I agree with you, we shouldn't have the corruption in the military budget, but how does your progressive bona fides line up with voting for a military budget? And let's add in the term corrupt military budget. Because according to you, that budget is corrupt. Do we need to do something about the corruption in that military budget? Agreed. But you voted for that. And if you voted for that, you voted for that knowing that there was all sorts of corruption within the context of bloating that military budget and making that military budget more bloated. Mrs. Warren, Senator Warren, how does your progressive bona fides line up with you voting for this bloated military budget? A military budget that you just said in this non-answer was corrupt. Explain, please. Please. What you're probably going to get is another non-answer. And maybe in that non-answer, she reveals something else. Who knows? Shout out to Emma Vigeland for asking Warren that question and not shirking her responsibilities in the same way that Cenk Uygur shirked his responsibilities. I wish he would have asked the follow-up that I just asked. Wait, you're saying that budget was also corrupt? How does your progressive bona fides line up with you voting for a military budget that you just now said was corrupt in your non-answer? I wish you would have, the next answer to that. But fair enough. Shout out for even asking it. Shout out for even asking it. All right, I'm going to end this. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all. Bye-bye.